Thank you very much for being so brave as to invite me to speak about something that can only be done properly on empty stomach, which is philosophy. So I'm going to address, yes. Do I have where I use something? Oh, that's fine, great. Okay. Yep, I saw that yeah, thank you, great. So, we heard in the last days a number of blockages. Why we can't have the same adoption for blockchain in the popular mind as we have for AI. Why, which are the most important blockages that we can encounter? One of the curiosity of the audience yesterday. Why this and that cannot be an idea to be very easily adopted by this government or another government. So the core issue here is that what is basically an idea that we try to transfer and how this is transferred to the other person. So we are speaking about something that is crucial, which is that we have to penetrate somebody else's mind. We have an idea in our mind who gets into somebody else's mind. And guess what? The only thing that can penetrate a mind, not the brain, the mind, is an idea, nothing else. So it's the only thing. Lawyers in this room are very much familiar with this thought because it is part of our job to do the pleading, which is basically convincing another person, which is basically take an idea from one mind and placing it into somebody else's mind. Now, where is the problem here? The problem is that if the idea is not already in the other mind, it will have a resistance, and that resistance is usually formed by the core elements of protection of everybody's system of thought, which is basically values and beliefs. So you can't, if you do not get the same values and if you do not get the same beliefs, and we have already saw the importance of religious beliefs among others in this morning, then you simply cannot enter. So your idea will be just staying in the air, entering one ear, getting the other ear, but without actually getting to the other person's mind. And the problem with blockchain is that it brings much more of a revolution than AI. The core ideas of AI is automation and delegation, and that's it. And this is something that we are used with. We had in the history, for instance, the golem as one of the stories. We have automata. We have the story of humanity trying to delegate something to somebody else is the whole relationship with animals, for instance, or the whole relationship with different kind of machines that we build. So it's not that revolutionary. Blockchain, on the other hand, is getting to very deep philosophical problems. And let's see which are them. So I put to you that it challenges truth, trust, identity, power, time, justice, law, value, and the creator responsibility. Guess what? A very, very long list of issues. So, the truth, what is real? The trust, whom I can trust. The identity, who am I? The power, who decides? The time, can we undo? Can we go back in time? The justice, who is fair? The law, what is law? The value, what is valuable? And the creator's responsibility, basically, whether it exists or not. Let's take them step by step, but I will be short. So promise is that this is a very, very, I would say, challenging but short presentation. Rethinking truth and trust. The old way was that we used to trust big institutions. We organize something and then we delegated those in assessing the truth, so we trusted them, like governments, banks, university, by the way, professors, etc. And then we have the blockchain shift. And the blockchain shift is that now we trust the system, which is an abstract notion, of code and consensus, both of them, again, very professional concepts in the world of engineers. So we said it is even a trustless system. Now imagine that. I need trust, and this is a trustless system. Clash. That works without needing to trust people. Oh my God, the first thing that every child learns is trust, not trust people. You speak with that one, you don't speak with that one. So we go and we hit the very first concepts that somebody is growing up with. So, to me, the problem here is the new thought and how we can convince somebody to accept this new thought, which is something automatically true just because it's unchangeable on blockchain? People would say immediately no. The most important problem with the blockchain is how you input data in the blockchain. And that is a simple person, the simplest of all, who would say, well, I don't trust the system because I want to know what gets into the system. And the more advanced one would say, I would like to know how the system works. And the even more advanced one would say, I would like to know how the system stops working if we need a kill switch button. And that was some discussion at the European Union. Now, let's go to the next point. Reimagining identity. We were used to prove our identity with some official documents and institutions. So if you ask me, who am I? And I'm telling you, well, I'm Professor Crenguta Leaua. Okay, fine. Can you prove it? Yes, sure. Here's my passport. Here's my university ID, whatever. It's something issued by a government, something issued by an institution. And everybody was at peace with that. Now, the blockchain shift, it's saying that you can control and verify your identity yourself, and you can even have many digital identities that each of them are under your control. Well, that is beautiful if you put it like an option, but think about what you're saying. You're saying to that person that you will not be able, but yourself, to prove that you are yourself. And how about if I lose myself? How about if I'm unconscious and I'm going into the coma and I cannot longer access my ID and I cannot access my electronic wallet of all my identities? Then what? Who is going to be consenting for me? How they are going to find my relatives if there is not some depository that is public of my identity? So as nice as it can be, it is also challenging. I can see the use cases and I'm very happy with them, but you can see why the resistance is on very, very profound level. Because imagine then when you go to school, again, children, one of the first things that you have to teach a child is, who are you? Who are your parents? Who are the parents? The depository of the identity, not only the guardians. The ones that can confirm, it is your child, yes, it is mine, fine. So there, the proof, the new thought that has somehow to be tested in the communication is, if a program acts for you in proving your identity, well, who's really responsible? It is you, it is the program, it is a mixture of both, and then what? What one of them is not functional? What's happening? I would just remind you about Roman law, and that's fun, because Romans were having multiple identities because the legions of the Roman Empire were traveling a lot, and people were staying in different places with the legions, so some of them have even families in those regions, and some of them have even names that were adapted to the regions. I'm coming from Romania. This is the place of an old Roman legion. We have still very, very strong ties with the Roman past. And in that situation, it was a problem with identity, and they discovered some legal approach. It was really useful. It was nomen, tracta, and fama, which is you have to declare that you are yourself. Somebody else has to accept that you are that person and treat you as such. For instance, I am Crenguta, but you are referring to me as Crenguta. And then it's fama, which is when you and your colleague are speaking about me when I'm not here, both of you understand when you are referring to Crenguta that this is me, and this is fama. Now, these three concepts, if you put them on the blockchain, well, it may be an interesting development, but still you need something that it is external just to me and myself. You need another person and the relationship between others about me. So, complicated story, this is what I can only tell. Then, guess what? Blockchain is challenging time and mistakes. Now, I may sound like I'm saying big words, but that is true, if you think about. The old way was that people could fix mistakes and they can ask for forgiveness. All religions, all of them, are about somebody at some point in time being able to get forgiveness. Why? Because it's an important human need. We need to be able at some point in time to detach ourselves from our past, reinvent ourselves, and decide to be better. In a way or another. We all need that. Now, what the blockchain promise is, you're not going to be able to escape your past. You're going to be trapped in once recorded, it states so, and even criminals after 35 years are usually, 35 is the maximum usually in most legislation, they have to be erased from the criminal record. If it's on blockchain, tough luck. You're going to stay there. Maybe we can make the information blurred. Maybe we can have it overwritten and buried, let's say, into post information. But if you imagine that you're telling somebody you're not going to be able to escape about your past, and everything will be carved in stone for eternity, that is an idea that is philosophically very challenging, in spite of the great use cases that it may have. So it has advantages, but it faces resistance. And the thing is the following: if you don't have the undo button, and that is relationship with time and self, are you still human? I mean, humanity, it's about, if you ask anybody, what is to be human? Kind, forgiveness, no, to be able to forgive, to be generous, to do various things in which you trust again a person who violated your trust initially. Not exactly easy if you don't have the undo button. Now, we have seen excellent presentations. I apologize to my colleagues for not addressing the questions that they would have deserved to elaborate more on the topic. But excellent presentations were made about the law, and I would only briefly address them. Because challenging justice and ethics is really, again, a very, very important issue. Why? Because this is what is gluing us as humans in a society. Basically, it is the trust, but the trust has, as my colleague really pointed out, in the backwards, it's always some element of enforcement, some element of the state helping you or community helping you. The blockchain shift comes and says, code follows strict rules, they are fair, but they are inflexible. What does it mean, inflexible? Not adapted to the context of a person as opposed to a theoretical situation, and not adapted to the future, but only adapted to the moment in which you write them. All legal contracts have flexibility into various types of clauses that are adaptation clauses for very future situation. Now imagine that those adaptation clauses disappear from law, and you can no longer adapt the contracts. Or if you adapt the contracts, you can adapt them only to what was conceivable and addressed at the time of the contract, which means that all of us have to be Nostradamus, but like a very, very, very clear Nostradamus, not metaphorical Nostradamus. Nostradamus as a lawyer. And that is very difficult. So if you tell somebody, please use blockchain, because this, please use smart contract, because this will be the future, well, the problem is, well, the machine can be fair, can take decisions without human values being so perfect and inflexible or not? Tough question. It was also mentioned by my dear colleague about the language of law, which is natural language. We have already troubles about natural language as it is, because we have problems between, for instance, translating the word rights from French to Romanian to English. Just the word rights, you know, and try to do that. Or tort, try to do that as well. Or some basic notions. And if you have to transfer them from one legislation to another, you have to jump into a cultural new environment and a new natural language. Now you said, well, that's beautiful. We will have the same language, the programming language. Funny enough, the programming language is not a natural language in itself, but it behaves like such. Because it is basically that you have to go from a language that has all the nuances of grammar and all the nuances of the topology and the syntax and all the nuances of the words and concepts into the nuances of the topology, which is mathematics this time, and 0, 1 as the only letters and 0, 1 as the only words that you can build with those letters. So what you do, it's a reductionist type of language. And that reductionist type of language will create even more problem to say tort in this language machine or to say rights in language machine. So for that reason, it's a problem. And also it was mentioned that interpretation is very important. All of us in law, we interpret what we interpret, both the law and the situation as applicable with, in the context of a specific law. We do not do that with the brain only. Guess what? We do that with both brain, empathy, emotions. So we use a very complex system of operating, understanding as human beings. We don't use only logic. As much as somebody would say that the perfect judge is a robot, try yourself, if you want that for you yourself, the perfect judge to be a robot. Think about your children. You would like for a robot to decide their lives? It is a problem. So you may have some resistance, philosophical resistance to that. Basically, what's happening is that through this technology, though, some very smart engineers are building it, but we do not realize that we are actually reinventing how we live together. Because the old way was that we built communities through shared values and stories. Children are growing up with stories. Nobody learns reality by reading the civil code, and nobody learns reality by coding in programming language. Everybody learns reality by stories. This is how we build ourselves as humans. That's why the storytelling is such a great way of selling things, including ideas. That's why all the religions are using what? They are using metaphors, and they are using different kind of storytelling. We have them, because this is the way that you can transfer a certain culture and build it at a community level. Now, what the blockchain says, forget about values, forget about stories, we are going to do codes and transactions. Now, this word, it was a wrong word chosen by the engineers, because it is brought or bought or borrowed, so I don't know exactly the legal relationship with the words, but anyway, taken from economy, from business, from the money word, or from law, but very few people make the difference between a set-off and transaction in French law, etc. So what's happening? It's happening that transactional as a word, it means that it's something that is not necessarily related with stories, it's not related with values, it's related with quid pro quo. I'm giving something, you're giving something else. It's cold, it's not warm. And that coldness is sometimes creating a problem about the social richness and the emotional of the emotions that the human relationships are based off. And that is hitting the very heart of the person that you're trying to persuade to use the technology. So, what happened? Transforming economics and value in the society, among other issues, because we had government controls money and basically interventionism with inflation, deflation, etc., and decided what is worth, also interest rates, etc. But the blockchain shifts is that you're going to create values by communities and scarcity that is mathematically created. Bitcoin, it's a scarcity of a certain type of mathematical formula. So economics is created by at least real life, some sort of real life scarcity, either created by the community, the government, putting restrictions to transfer of assets on a specific territory, or by natural scarcity. There is this amount of salt in the world, and therefore the salt has a price. But fact is that the blockchain takes that out, and it says we can have values in NFTs. We can have values in just some element that is agreed by the people and that is sufficient. So this is also a problem. Now, we have not attached this subject a lot. But I think that what's happening is also that we are building a new layer of reality. Because usually, in the old way that we were seeking, the reality is either natural or God-made, depends on the perspective, whether it's atheist or not. But anyway, it is not created by man, reality. Infrastructure, yes, but not reality. The blockchain shift is that humans may create a new level, or layer, I call it, of reality, because the blockchain is also the infrastructure for the metaverse and NFTs. Why? Because it can provide unicity in the digital environment. And because of providing unicity, it can create something that maybe have an identity, or it can be defined as a certain object. And this is really a problem. Why is that? Because we are living in a world where we never blame the creator. The creator is never responsible. The word force majeure in English is acts of God. Simple as that. Okay? So it's just no responsibility if this is happening. If it's a tsunami, if it is an earthquake, we don't blame the humans for that. And we neither blame the creator of the nature. We don't say Earth is to be, guilty, and therefore we bring a lawsuit against Earth. or planet Earth, or universe, or God, whoever we believe that is the creator. But in the new world that we are creating, the creator is a human. And therefore, we have to reinvent our thinking and say, you are responsible for the worlds that you're creating. You are going to be the builder of an infrastructure. You're going to be the builder of Amazon. You're going to be the builder of a metaverse. You're going to be the builder of any platform. You are going to be responsible for what's happening in the universe that you have created. And that is also, for some people, scary. And then, to properly prepare you for lunch, I will throw my last slide, which is actually, if you think about, it's that, it's very tough to say that, but it's true. We are blurring the line between tech and divinity. Why? Because the old way is to see that only divine power is perfect and unchanging. Immutable was the word that was describing, among other things, God. And now, nothing was immutable on earth. Everything changes. Pantare, the thing flows from, the old wisdom until today. Everything changes. We are changing. Nature is changing. And now we are going to build something unchangeable, immutable. And that's one thing. And the other thing, it will be everywhere and nowhere. Ring a bell? Everywhere and nowhere. So what's happening is that you're somehow getting, without actually willing to do so, at a certain system of thought that is challenging a place that was reserved to spiritual and moral judgments, not to technology, not to use cases. And then you're wondering why your product faces resistance when you try to sell it. Well, because that person just feels that the whole universe is falling apart when you're talking without even realizing that this is what the feeling is sourced in. This whole list that I put to you at the beginning of concepts that are challenged, sometimes not even you who are selling the product, you do not realize that you're challenging. Or even you make it your pitch point. And the other person feel it as a threat. Feel it like you're just destroying his vision of whatever it is important in this world. So, it doesn't disrupt institutions, it doesn't disrupt economy, only it challenges deep philosophical categories. We switch from subjectivity to objectivity, from the recorded truth in stories to the interpreted truth, to the truth in stone, truth carved forever into a specific code line. From authority, which is also important, to consensus, from centralized legitimacy to distributed validation, and that is quite historically speaking, very old era of humanity. And then from reversible humanity to irreversible code, grace and error as part of the human paradigm, to execution and certainty. Which one do you want to live into? It's complicated. And then from acts of God as waiving responsibility to the creator's responsibility as a paradigm that would contrast the world in which the God is the creator with the world, the infrastructure that is built by man. And my question to you is very simple. Are we ready for that, or we are not? And if we are not, well, the only questions that can be addressed to me after this talk, but that will be during the coffee break or the lunch break, are just philosophical questions. Because technology, as I said, this time surprised us all and challenged philosophy. Thank you.